All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our September 14th Kiwanis Club meeting. It's 12:30 on the dot, and I appreciate everybody being here. And we've got a fabulous guest speaker today. Is looking forward to getting into that. As you're coming in, I want to make sure that everybody is muted, obviously, and you can unmute yourself when you're ready to speak. That would work out great. So what I'd like to do at this point is go ahead and I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will I'm going to see here. So stop. Hang on a second here. I got to share my screen. I can't remember how to do that. Let's see. Screen share. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to do a quick pledge of allegiance. And there we go. And I'll say share. And are you seeing my screen, Martha? All right, very good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's my man, John Wayne. So good stuff, guys. Welcome again to the September 14th Kiwanis Club of Augusta meeting. I got a little bit of club business I need to get to before we introduce our speaker and really do that. I mentioned in our last meeting that Sam Tyson had been fighting a spinal infection, and he had some subsequent surgeries as a result of that. And he was actually in the hospital for about 30 days this past summer. And, as you guys know, we sent out an email yesterday afternoon. He had passed Saturday evening. So, our thoughts and prayers are with Sam and his family. He was actually a member of our club for 32 years. He held several leadership positions in our club. He helped a lot with our conventions, our district conventions. And we'll be really missing Sam Tyson. So, again, keep your eyes peeled for his obituary over the next couple of days, and your thoughts and prayers with his family. We had a board meeting last week, and the board has recently approved a new dues structure, and we'll be rolling that out to you through the Kiwanis Notes newsletter. We're dotting some I's, crossing some T's, but we'll have new dues structure for our 2020 and 2021 fiscal year, which actually starts next month in October. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. And you'll also get that in a dues notice from our Treasurer Secretary Lowell Dorn. So just kind of keep your eyes peeled for that. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and turn over the microphone, if you will, to Martha. And Martha, you're going to introduce our speaker.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff. Campbell Vaughn was born in Augusta, Georgia. He earned a Bachelor's of Science of Agriculture at the University of Georgia in 1994. He worked in corporate sales in Atlanta for 7 years with Georgia Pacific and Bell South before returning to UGA for another bachelor's degree in landscape architecture. He then moved back to Augusta and opened his own landscape architecture business called Campbell Vaughn Design Group that specialized in residential design. Campbell is currently the UGA Augusta Richmond County Cooperative Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources, as well as the director of a local office of 11 extension employees. He is married with 2 children. Please join me in welcoming Campbell Vaughn to our Kiwanis Club.
Hello all. Thank y'all for having me today. And I wanted plenty of stuff I could talk about and stuff, and I appreciate Martha and Jeff having me too. So I just finished a master's degree and program, and Martha was one of my teachers, and we got to talking and enjoyed her, and I told folks I'm a whole lot better at landscape stuff than I am administrative law. So I'm glad to be talking about that kind of stuff in front of y'all instead of some of these case studies we had to go through. So I see some people that I know on the group. I'm glad to be here, glad to help anytime. And when Martha and I was asking me about trying to get some of this stuff going in talking, and of course we'd originally planned not to do it on Zoom, but we're glad we were able to do it in any kind of format, just because I enjoy getting to talk to people and ask questions and stuff. She could kind of mention to me a little bit about like pandemic gardening and things along those lines. And as everybody knows, it's kind of been different. Oh gosh, I didn't even think about it, but my office has a train, so I'm right here, and y'all probably get it from the St. Paul's. It comes right by my office, and so I might have to mute you for just a second if I hear it coming down this way. So I apologize if that happens. So talking about doing in some gardening and during a pandemic, as well as just some things going on in the landscape this time of year, and stuff I enjoy talking about and deal with a whole lot. So it's been a real interesting year for us in the extension office, because we're supposed to really be in front of people and doing things as educators, and that's what we do as in extension, is educate. And my job is to do agriculture, natural resources, which my counterparts, we're county operated, so every county in the state of Georgia has an extension service. So where folks in Burke County or Bacon County are dealing with row crops and dairy cows and blueberries, the bulk of what I deal with is going to be more horticulture related, homeowners and commercial landscapes with a little bit of agriculture. So we're in front of people a lot, and it's been an interesting deal, because we basically are not in front of people as much, but people have, when they got holed up in the spring, it was almost unbelievable the amount of people that were getting out in their yards with the decent weather. If it wasn't raining, people were out, and our phones were just ringing off the hooks, and the emails were coming out like mad, and I could barely keep up with it all, because people said, let's get outside and do some things. A lot of people doing a lot of projects around the house, and it's been real interesting, because been seeing a lot of different questions that you just don't hear people calling, trying to identify stuff, and just trying to get interested in being outside more often, which has been it's a great thing for the health of people and for mental health as well. And it's been a good educational experience for me. So our phone has rang off the hook just because people want to know what's going on, and asking questions and trying to learn. And we're glad to be able to do that around here. So we have 4-H in our office. We also have family and consumer science in our office. And that's been a little tough for us, because we are really in front of a lot of kids and a lot of other folks. And that's really been limited too. So the good news is I'm able to get in front of people and whatever method we need to, because if it's email or phone call, usually we can help out that way. And I get in the car and visit a lot of houses and check out problems and help people with different kind of ways of fixing things. We got some pretty cool projects going on that just aren't really question related. Uptown VAs, we worked on getting a grant there at the VA over on Wrightsboro Road, and we are trying to revitalize their courtyard gardens there. So if anybody's over at the VA and gets a chance to see those in the next few months, we're really going to start working on those. It was basically, they said, here's $7,500 to go spend it on stuff for landscapes, and but you got to do it within 2 weeks or something. So it was kind of an interesting shopping spree that we went on to make all that stuff happen. It's hard to spend $7,500 on little items like that. So but we did, and it's going to be really neat. If anybody's interested in helping volunteer over there, it's a great opportunity, and hopefully get the veterans involved over there, and some of the people that are in need of some extra, something else to do besides just kind of banter around over there. So a lot of neat stuff going on like that. We're starting to get into fall a little bit, and we finally have dried out in our landscapes. It's kind of been interesting because of how much rain we've had this year. I think November, December, January, we were about 4 times above where our moisture levels were normally, and then it just kept on raining. I think it's been maybe a little bit in the spring. We got a little bit of a break forward, but I would say maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, our soil levels were completely saturated with how much rain we've had, which is, I've never seen it like that. So a lot of moisture in the soils, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a real detriment to. I'm starting to see a lot of plants that have drowned. The roots are rotting on them. If you're seeing some trees issues, it could be that you're not getting the things have dried out enough, and your roots are rotting on things. so that's been a real challenge for us. And then we also had a pretty decent amount of heat to go along with it. So heat, humidity, and moisture are our biggest enemies when it comes to fighting pests. You know, it's you deal with moisture and heat are usually the catalyst is for kind of fungal and bacterial growth. So I'm seeing a decent amount of that, and we're trying to combat that best way we can. Generally, I would tell you, if you hadn't turned the irrigation system off, go on and do that. We really wouldn't much. We needed to water hardly at all this year, except for maybe a few times here and there. I know I've only irrigated my yard 2 or 3 times this year, just because I either had to water some fertilizer in or pre-emergence in. The leaves are already starting to fall off the trees, so I think fall is kind of starting. And I even saw that it's going to even get down in the 50s this week. So not normal for September for us, really. Usually it'll stay pretty warm, but that's going to kind of change some things around in terms of switching over from summer to fall, and that just is going to be a catalyst for winter/cool season weeds to come out. So if you've got anybody's, got a lawn, it's time to start putting your pre-emergence out. And just to give you kind of a thought about how those pre-emergence systems work is pre-emergence is a herbicide, meaning it's going to kill unwanted plants. But what they do is, when the seasons change over, you get annual weeds that come around every year. And our big ones in the wintertime is going to be poana, poanua. In the summer, it's kind of crabgrass, but there's obviously a variety of weeds. And what happens is when the soil temperature gets right, the seeds that are laying around and the dormant from last season are going to start germinating and then start popping up. These pre-emergence products, basically it puts a chemical layer down on the ground, and when the seed germinates, it keeps the roots from developing and it kills the seeds off. So if you can put those, get the pre-emergence out in your lawns, and even as well in some of your beds, if you get the right labeled product for it, you can really reduce weeds down in by about 80-85% sometimes. So get them down. We recommend doing it about this time, and then maybe again in March. And then if you're super ambitious, do it again in December as well as June. So that's a big one for us. I'm trying to push that. If you've got zoysias in St. Augustine lawns, I recommend getting a preventive fungicide out, because we do have some issues with fungus, some fall fungus. Large patch is one of them, and it ate my yard up a couple of years ago. So I've been trying to preventive treat it. There's a real good product. I know they have it up at Daniel Village Ace, and then I think some of the big box stores have it. It's a great product called Scott's Disease EX, and it's you can preventatively put it out, read the label, and water it in, and you may need to treat it again in about 21 days. But I'd go on and get it out if you've got zoysias in St. Augustine lawns, because it can jump on you. It won't really kill your lawn, but it sure will make it unsightly up until it goes dormant in December. Usually it'll work its way out. I have been seeing chinch bugs a good bit. So if anybody's got St. Augustine, chinch bugs have been a bear this year, just because we've been hot and dry lately. I actually ended up in my yard this year for the first time, and I hadn't had it in a long time. It's still hot enough to get them, and definitely dry enough to get them. So keep an eye out for them. If your grass starts turning brown all of a sudden, that's probably a good sign of it. There's a lot of different ways to check for them, but sometimes preventive treating those areas isn't such a bad idea if you see them turning that way. So other things going on, I like to tell people, some people are itching to get to pruning things. You got to be careful about pruning this time of year. Right now, you can get away with some light pruning on things, but I generally tell people not to do any heavy pruning on things like boxwoods and ligustrums and things like that, just because what will happen is they'll get knocked, you cut them back, and then they'll start putting out new growth in about a month, and they'll have tender leaves. And if we get a cold snap early, it can really burn your leaves on your plants. And so I like to tell folks, mainly wait from right now, probably wait until, late February, March before they do any major pruning on this stuff. And certainly don't prune anything back on a camellia, because camellias are set their buds and they're about to bloom. Of course, azaleas actually have set their buds too, but you don't see them as well. And so, general rule of thumb, unless you ask me and I say yes, I would avoid doing any kind of pruning on anything. So, lawn maintenance is, just keep your grass mowed. Don't let it get too high. Like I said, I don't think we need to do a whole lot of irrigating. One of the things that I do like to mention, I mentioned earlier, we had so much soil saturation, which is causing a lot of problems. Is I see, a lot of houses just have foundation plants, and if they're hollies and boxwoods and camellias and gardenias and that type of stuff, they have an irrigation system around them, and it was essentially there to get the plants established. If you're watering those plants, stop watering them. In general, stop watering them. They're very drought tolerant. They do well in our area for a reason. It's because they'll live in the middle of the sun in the middle of a cemetery with no irrigation. They make, they're going to do just fine in your yard as well. So stick to irrigating your vegetable gardens and some on your turf, but avoid doing a lot of those foundation plants. And you wasted water and probably doing more harm to your plants. So especially some of those mist head things, they can really pump a lot of water out and can drown those plants in a hurry. So that's one of the big things I like to remind people of. We do a lot more harm with overwater than not enough water. So, and I can keep chit-chatting and stuff, but I always like to give an opportunity for anybody to ask any questions if they got anything on their mind or they're interested in anything specific. I've got, and if you...
Campbell.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your participation in the show on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock.
On the radio?
Yeah. And anybody who doesn't know about it, you might mention it to them. But my question is, for the past several years, I put out about maybe 4 hummingbird feeders. And I always have a lot of honeybees and some other little kind of bee with black and yellow stripes on the back that just swarm in there, to get the sugared water. But this year I haven't seen hardly any of either. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, yeah, I do. And pollination is a big subject we discuss a lot, is just because it's so important. And we do the radio show on 3 of us alternate out at 7 o'clock on WGAC every Saturday morning, and we, it's a subject that gets brought up a lot. Pollination is a big push with all of us. People talk a lot about honeybees. So the thing to know about honeybees is they're very, very, very efficient pollinators, and they're easy to manage. And one of the biggest deals about them is you can just pick a box up and take it wherever you want to. And that's the reason why we have a lot of watermelons growing in South Carolina and around. And the reason we have almonds in California is because people can pick up honeybees by thing, and then all those plants can be pollinated. There's not enough native species out there to do all the pollination that needs to happen for those plants. So, but when it comes to just our landscapes and our natural pollination cycles, we have to rely on native things. And my guess is the small bee you're talking about is some type of native bee. And sometimes insects are cyclical. We'll get, something slight change in the weather will keep them from put them in decline. But next year you may see copious amounts of them. Honeybees are they're considered, domestic. A domestic livestock, really, and they are domestic livestock technically. They're around and they do escape and they'll end up in certain places, but those aren't really necessarily the ones that we need to rely on to get things pollinated, just because they're an imported species. And as good as they do at pollinating, we really need to keep using focus more on our native stuff. We did a really neat program. We did it for the 2nd year. It was called the Great Pollinator Census from the University of Georgia Center for Urban Ag did it, and it was a statewide deal. And you can go on the internet and look up Great Georgia Pollinator Census, and it's got some real good literature a printout that'll show you some of the insects to look for that you'd be pollinating, that would be pollinators around. And my guess is one of those insects that you'd mentioned earlier probably is in one of those little publications. And you might be able to ID it. And if you ID it, send it over to me and I can kind of give you the background on what it is. We have a lot of them that live in trees, dead trees. We got a lot of them that'll live in the ground. So, you know, just all kind of depends on where they're coming from and what the climate's like at the time. And hopefully we're not overspraying and knocking them back to the numbers that aren't sustainable. So I hope I answered some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a real quick question, and I'll let you answer. Are there any showstoppers that we can expect from our friends at the Augusta National in November?
You know, I don't know any. We do work with the Augusta National. Of course, they keep things real quiet over there. So I have gotten some calls from, you know, really all over the United States about questions about, you know, what's going to be blooming out there this time of year. And it's kind of a tough one to say because my guess is, you know, we'll have some fall color on some of the leaves out there, but pine trees don't have a whole lot of fall colors. So it's going to be green and pretty out there. But I don't think it's going to be any, you know, it's going to be different not seeing a bunch of blooming stuff because the bulk of the stuff they do have there is going to be late winter, you know, early spring bloomers, you know, with the forsythias and the azaleas. There may be some camellias blooming out there, and we may get some fall color off some hardwoods, but it's going to look different out there for sure.
Campbell, do you know if they're going to plant anything new because of this situation? I mean, like anything.
They're always continuously planting things. You know, it's real easy, sustainable. I say sustainable. You know, they plant large stuff and they don't do a whole lot of annuals. It's a lot, mainly shrubbery and in large trees. And so they could add color around by adding annuals. But, you know, I don't really know. I don't know how they're going to approach that this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to keep the leaves up, that's for sure, with all the hardwood trees, but I think they've got the resources to do that for sure.
Campbell, I have a question.
Sure.
Several weeks ago, I had a new emerald zoysia lawn put in, and my contractor said to water it twice a day for 30 minutes for several weeks. That seems like a lot to me.
It's excessive, and that's too much.
Okay.
You can drown it faster than you can not. We've got plenty of moisture in the soil. What I like to say is you can grab the new sod by the hair, just grab it and pull it up. And if you've got roots in there, it's establishing. But zoysia is easy because you can tell it's a little bit stressed because it'll kind of turn this bluish green look. If it gets that way, add some moisture to it, but let it stress a little bit. There's plenty of moisture in the soil and get those roots moving. If you keep that much moisture on the ground at all times, those roots really don't have a whole lot of reason to go anywhere. The deeper the root system you got, the more healthy of a root system you got, the healthier the plant itself is going to be. I'd turn it off, maybe water it every other day, and then then turn it back to once a week real deep, and then you probably could turn it off for the winter.
Yeah, I read with great interest your story in the Chronicle about watering, and I stopped and I felt when I walk on it, it feels mushy.
And that you need to definitely turn it off then.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be. That's a good way to rot the root systems on that. So let it dry out some. Just don't stress it too much because it is kind of in transition. But definitely let it dry out. That's way too much water.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Campbell, this is Jim Stiff from Goodwill, and we're going to develop a large 5-acre garden out in Grovetown. That's going to be vegetables and have a greenhouse for year-round growing. But the property probably is going to need soil tests. What kind of services do you all perform, like for testing soil?
We actually have a pretty wide range of things you can do for testing soils. you know, if it's going to be your lawn, we recommend doing soil tests for anybody's lawn, especially if they're going to, or their yard, just if they're going to plant any kind of anything, because you kind of want to have a good baseline. It's about the best thing you really can do for your lawn. And you can call us, we'll tell you how to do them. We take them at the office. We do a lot of other testing stuff too. So, you know, for home sites that you can test for heavy metals like mercury and lead and arsenic and things like that. And if you're using nursery mix stuff, we can check for organic material in your mixes. But if the stuff's going in the ground, the number one thing you need to do is to check it to make sure your pH is right and to make sure your potassium and phosphorus and calcium levels are adequate. And if you need to subsidize it, it'll tell you exactly how much you need to do. It's easy to do. It doesn't take but a week to get the results back. We email them to you. It's $8 a sample, which is a bargain if you're really trying to do something production wise. So but that's exciting, y'all are doing that program. We actually did a class over at the Helms College this past week. So with the HORT programs, that's kind of neat, y'all talking about that.
Yeah, it'll be part of the same program, and we'll just have our horticulture classes will be on site in Grovetown.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, whatever we can do, or Tripp and Columbia County can do to help, we're more than happy to.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
We have some other great questions out there. Don't be shy. We've got a great resource here.
Put them in the chat box if you want to. Be glad to do that. And you know, I guess I could type my email address in there. Y'all are always welcome to email me. It's a good way to put that in the chat box, and y'all can certainly let everybody know. Y'all are always welcome to email me. I try to look at my emails a pretty good bit. I try to turn my brain off a little bit for extension stuff on the weekend. So, but if you do it, I'll definitely get back with you as quick as I can. It's a good way for me to kind of interact, and I can research stuff and talk to you about whatever it is going on. So,
right.
Welcome to call me at the office. And, you know, if you got some major issues, if it's in Richmond County, I can certainly come and visit you, and we can fix some problems. There's not much I haven't seen.
Yep.
My name's Chip Matson. I'm married to Paula Matson, a master gardener.
One more question
yeah.
for you, though. I'm going to throw at you,
And
Campbell.
if you get in a situation,
When's a good time to get rid of fire ants in the yard? I mean, I have little piles that keep popping up throughout the year. What's a good solution?
Chip, I see you right there, and Jeff, I want to answer your question too. We'll get both of those. Jeff, I'll do that one real quick for you, and then Chip, I'll get to you. Fire ants, that's a good question. The best way to treat those is treat them now and again in the April. You want to get them when they're foraging and when it's dry out. And the best way of doing things is using a bait for them. It's a soy-based product because they like protein. You just disperse it out gently throughout your landscape. You can do it with a hand spreader. Amdro is a good one, but make sure it's a bait. Put it out when we're not going to get rain for a couple of days. The ants will forage for it. They'll take it back to the nest. It'll kill the queen. It's a far better way of doing it than just spot spraying individual nests out there. So, but April and September are the best times to do that.
And where can I get a large amount? Man, we got about 3/4 of an acre.
And that, it actually goes a pretty good ways because you can thin it out. And if you do it over a certain area, you can buy it from Lowe's and Home Depot and they'll guide it. But if you go to Ewing or Site One, they should have some kind of bait. There's one called Extinguish Plus. It's got killers in there as well as that's a growth regulator. So something similar to that, but make sure it's the bait, not the other one. So Chip, you were asking me a question.
well, actually, I was going to offer some assistance. If you get in a situation where you have to spend $7,500 again quickly, Paula is more than willing to help with that.
Okay.
She's very successful with our budget, and I'm sure she could really help yours too. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't mean to make light of it spending that kind of money, but it was federal government stuff, and they have so many stipulations about how you spend it and when you got to spend it, and this can't be on will call and so on and so forth. So it worked out real well, but it's kind of a neat little project we've done. I think it's gonna be a neat project over there too. So they have a fantastic greenhouse over there that I would love to be able to get fixed. It's probably $40,000 worth of work that needs to happen to it, but the facility there is really fantastic. So we just try to help out wherever we can.
Well, thanks to your master gardener class, she has no lack of projects for us.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. We can add to it too, so. Anybody got anything else?
There's a question in the chat box.
Oh, let's see, from Dennis Bell. Yeah, that's a good question. Better time to plant trees, wait till spring. Actually, the late October, 1st of November is usually when I tell people it's the best time to start planting. And the reason being is that plants have kind of started going into dormancy a little bit, it's cooler, it's not as stressful. But when you put a plant in, the roots actually keep growing on them. So if you got a deciduous tree that doesn't have any leaves on there, you put the plant in the ground, the roots are going to keep kind of start working their way out gently, not hard, not heavy and hard, but they will. And by the time it starts warming up in the springs, the roots will really start moving. The plant will get a lot better established and it's ready to go. So the closer you can do it to the fall area, even into winter, and usually I say to kind of, unless you've got irrigation, we're willing to monitor it. We like to cut it off about Masters. 1st of May is about the last time you really want to plant. But tree planting, absolutely late October, 1st of November is the best time to put them in, and that goes for most any kind of woody material, shrubs and trees as well. And perennials actually do real well if you put them in, because they can. They'll die back and with the frost, and then they'll really pop up come time for spring to pop up. So good question though.
Well, great stuff, guys. Campbell, did you have anything else you wanted to share, or you've given us your email and we appreciate that?
Yeah, no, anything I can talk for hours, and sometimes some people tell me you need to be quiet. So I enjoy doing this stuff. I love my job. I love trying to help and to educate ever I can, because I see how much joy it brings a lot of people to be able to fix problems and to make their landscapes better. I'm here to help, and if I can't find an answer, I've got plenty of people that will have the answer. And anything you need, I'm glad to help.
Well, Dalton mentioned your radio shows on Saturdays, where you split that up with 3 other guys.
The 2 former agents, Sid Mullis from Richmond County and Charles Phillips, who's the retired agent from Columbia County. We do it every Saturday on 580 AM. It's at 7 o'clock, called the Wallace and Sons Lawn and Garden Show. Yep. I write an article for the Augusta Chronicle every week, so that's 52 a year I get to do. So you got any subject material you think you might like to hear about? It's always good to kind of mix it up a little bit, and then I do that TV show with Anna on local living, probably about once a month. So that's kind of our big media outreach stuff. So.
Campbell's Corner, I think you mentioned, right?
That's Campbell's Corner. That's right.
Okay.
You said the show on AM 580 at 7 a.m. on Saturdays is you and Sid Mullins and who?
Charles Phillips and Sid Mullis are the ones that we rotate every 3rd Saturday. And I think when COVID gets over, that Trip Williams, the Columbia County agent, will probably get back in the rotation. So we're actually doing it remotely. So we've got this remote device that we have it at the office, and we come and log in. I actually took it up to the lake the other day because we were up there for Labor Day and had to do it from there. The guy said, "You got to be careful. That thing costs about $7,000." I was like, I put it in this foam thing and tucked it away. But it's fun. We enjoy doing it.
The show's also on 95.1 FM.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 95.1 FM is WGAC is the radio station.
Awesome. Well, thank you again very much, Campbell, for being with us today. We recorded this session, so it'll be available to you, and we can send you the link, and you can share that with other folks as well. Just as a reminder to the folks that are on our Zoom meeting today, our next Zoom meeting will be September 28th. We know we're doing this every other week. September 28th, we're going to have our very own Mark Alberton, and he'll be discussing his recent documentary on it's about the history of Augusta. So we're looking forward to having that. And, again, keep your eyes peeled for our dues notices that'll be coming out in the Kiwanis notes. And then also you'll be getting emails from Lowell outlining what you owe. And I'll leave you with one speaking of radio stations and things like that, what's a tree's favorite radio station? Of course, we all know that it is one that plays popular songs.
That's pretty bad. I like it though.
They mostly are, Campbell. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. Appreciate you.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.